What on guys, Commander, and welcome to a new video in Substance Painter / Unreal Engine 4. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is basically a Substance Painter video, but we are going to be using Unreal Engine 4 as well. Now, what I want to do today is, as you can see, this is the textured Clone Trooper helmet that we did in the last episode, or the last Substance Painter video where I did showing you how to make this from scratch. If you haven't seen that already and you want to see it, it's basically a 50-minute long tutorial video showing you how I went from the base Clone Trooper helmet from Battlefront 2 and turned it into this. So it goes through the basic steps of the different features inside of Substance Painter, all towards the end result which we get here. So if you want to see that, leave a link in the description down below for you to see it. Now, what we're going to be doing today is something that, now I didn't actually intend to do this originally, but I thought, well, considering it's probably something I had to look up to find out how to do, it's not, and also because it's not particularly straightforward either, I thought I'd do a video on it. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be showing you how to get the Substance Painter's textures into Unreal Engine 4. Now, in principle, it's relatively straightforward. However, there's a couple of little things that you need to bear in mind, because otherwise it won't actually work properly. Now, but we'll get, that's more on Unreal Engine side rather than Substance Painter. Exporting these textures in Substance Painter is actually just as easy as anything. It's basically like exporting out of Photoshop, as long as you've got the right preset. But it's when we get into Unreal Engine, things get a little bit tricky, but it's just a couple little things, but it's something that you wouldn't, I certainly didn't when I was doing this, know myself. So obviously we've got this texture here. So you've got your UV and you've got your UV maps, and then you've got your texture thing here. So as soon as you've done everything with it, double check it to make sure you've got everything you want with it. It's not the end of the world, but if you export it and you need to make a change, you're gonna have to export everything again. So if you go File, now there's two different things you could do here. There's Export Mesh and there's Export Textures. Now this Export Mesh is actually pretty good, because if, let's say, this helmet, if you accidentally delete the file of the FBX or OBJ or whatever, the model file you're using for this particular texture, you can export the mesh, and you've basically got that to import into Unreal Engine already. So if I go with Export Mesh, I can do without displacement tessellation, or with, I just keep this all at default by click Export, and then go into Clone Trooper helmet, and it exports an OBJ, but you can change to FBX, DAE, whatever. So I'm going to change to FBX because that's what I'm comfortable with. And that's that is the original. But if you did happen to delete this, or whatever model you were using originally, you can just export your mesh and it'd be exactly as it is in Substance Painter. The only disadvantage to that particular thing, though, is that if you're exporting like that, in that way, if you've imported a skeletal mesh, so let's say you've imported the whole Clone Trooper with a skeleton, if you export it through Substance Painter doesn't recognize skeletons, so you're exporting a static mesh in that situation. So you'd be better off, actually, if it is from Battlefront, you'd be better off ripping the actual model again, because the texture UVs will all be exactly the same, so that's not an issue anyway. But you'd be better off, if it is a skeleton that you want and not just some static idle mesh, you'd be better off just ripping the model from the game again. Because Substance Painter doesn't recognize skeletons, so you'll have to, when you import it, and you'll see it actually, I'll show you. So if you just go Export Mesh, if I just click Export, and I'll show you what it is, we're going to Clone Trooper helmet. Let's just go, change it to FBX, and we'll do it, name it as that, right? So Mesh Export fully finished, and I'll show you what it does. I'm not sure if the original one will do. I can't remember whether it exported that with a skeleton, but we'll soon find out. So what you need to do if you're going to export the texture, you need to go File, then Export Textures, and it'll open up this window with Export Textures. Now you've got all of your different texture set materials. So now if I was exporting into Sketchfab, so this is the Sketchfab preset if I was going to use Sketchfab. Now, this is the only time I actually do play about with settings, really, and that's only because I've got the base Sketchfab account, so I'm getting paid for, upgrades. So, I've got, a 50 megabyte limit, so if it's a big texture, my Master Chief texture, because it was so big and so heavy quality, you'd have to, I have to, certain parts of the model I have to downgrade in quality. It can't all be 4K because that's over 500 megabytes. So that's where, let's say if you go into default material, which, or whatever it may be, you can change the quality to whatever it is you want. But I'm not going to bother with this one because, one, I'm exporting into Unreal Engine. So if I'm exporting into Unreal Engine, Unreal hasn't got a space cap on it, aside from what your space cap is on your storage drive you got your project in anyway. So I don't really need to bother. So what we need to do, so if you go into output template and you scroll down, if you're using Unreal Engine 4, there's your Unreal Engine 4 packed. Now there is a SSS packed. I've never really seen the need of using this, and I've used it like once or twice. I can't really see the need for it necessarily, but I always use just Unreal Engine 4 packed. If you're using any other software, we've got V-Ray ones, we've got Unity, we've got RenderMan. I don't know what really any of these are. Redshift, I've heard of Redshift before, I've never really used it though. Shade 3D. So there's a lot of different presets. Maxwell, which I believe is 3ds Max, I think. Lens Studio, Keyshot, CryEngine, Corona, Amazon. So all of these. So it's got a lot of different presets in it for whatever software you might be using. So I'm going to click Unreal Engine 4 because that's what we're using. You can keep the presets as PNG if you so much wish to. I always keep them as I always turn them as JPEG, or I think is Targa here? The TJA file? Yeah, Targa. I always keep it as JPEG or Targa because, well, Targa is game engine textures anyway. So Targa is basically game engine files anyway, but JPEG is but it's like Targa is very high, it's higher quality than PNG, so I always keep it as PNG. I don't, or not PNG, JPEG. You can use whatever you want, but this is just what I personally prefer. Use 16 bits plus dithering. Again, I don't see, never really seen a difference, but I just put 8 bits plus dithering, if just why not. Don't need to bother about changing that. Export shaders as parameters. Again, I just check that anyway. It's never really made much of a difference really that I can see, but I always keep it anyway. Also, you want to change this output directory to where your actual so if I just type in clone textures, because it just make it easy to find it, because this is where the export of the files actually end up. So stick it in there and then click export. Now this shouldn't take too long because why have I got an emissive layer? I can't remember why I got an emissive layer, but either way. Right, so that's all done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into Unreal Engine and I'm going to show you how to import the model and textures into that engine. Alright, so we're now in Unreal Engine again, into this world that we have been working on for the past few videos. Now I'm not going to do too much on it here, because I have got another video in the works, so I just need to do a bit of planning on before I can come into actually doing stuff in Unreal Engine itself for another video. But however, I've made myself a subfolder called Clone Helmet, where we're going to put our kit into. So this is the folder. Now this is the actual mesh that we're going to import. Now I have tried this one, and as you can see, if you go to import, it won't even give you the skeleton option. Right, so that's obviously means it's a static mesh, and that's what I expected, because for some reason Substance Painter doesn't recognize skeletons if they're imported into it, because it is just a modeling software, it's not a skeleton thingy. So but that's fine, that doesn't really matter that much. So what we need to do now is I'm going to import this one, and as you can see, automatically shows up as a skeleton mesh, and then if I click import all, show up like this. Then just for proof of concept, show up with all of the armature bones, even if they're not necessarily assigned to anything, right? So then it also comes up with a material bone. So if we're going to clone to the textures, this is where we've exported our textures to. We only need these 3. I don't know why Substance Painter exports with this JSON file. There's probably a reason for it. I don't particularly know what it is, so we're going to ignore it. It's not needed. So we'll import the texture files. It should import with no particular troubles. It'll recognize the normal map as a normal map, as it says down here. Support as normal map. Okay. So now we'll open up this. What I do want to do actually is just quickly drag and drop that into the engine, just so we can see what we're working on as we're working on it. So just like this. So we've got, so as we we're looking here, so we've got a number of different nodes that we could be using. So like base color, metallic, specular, normal, ambient occlusion, pixel depth offset. What we're going to be using today is base color, metallic, roughness, normal, and ambient occlusion. Right, not going to use anything else. That's the only ones we've got our texture maps for. So that's the only ones we're going to be using. So first of all, base color is, as you expect, it is base color. Normal is just the normal map. Again, it's easy as that. So let's just set that going. And as you can see, it's already in. It looks pretty good. Again, we haven't got our occlusion, roughness, and metallic in there just yet. So we obviously it's not going to look perfect. But if I if I import this into here, now the way these generally go is so if I open up this, it goes the name structure of it goes occlusion, roughness, metallic. Now in my experience, it generally goes RGB for each of its names. So so red is ambient occlusion, green is roughness, and blue is metallic. That's how I've always interpreted it to be, and I assume that's how it actually is. I've never, again, that's how it's always been for me, and I've never had any problems with it. So red goes into ambient occlusion, green goes into roughness, and blue goes into metallic, right? Now what you could do as well, if I just save that, if what you could do also is if you duplicate this, now this doesn't always work, but if you wanted to do it, then by all means. But if you open up your duplicate your base color and open it up, if you change this to grayscale, it'll turn it black and white. So what you can then do is if you save that, import that back in again, and stick the RGB into your specular, you can make a specular map. You can make a specular map for your model. Now I'm going to keep it there because it doesn't really do anybody any harm. Now, as you can see, it looks alright, but it looks a little bit shiny. Now, I don't ever remember making the model that shiny. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is if we just get rid of this, just save that again. The reason for it is, for some reason, I don't know why, this occlusion, roughness, and metallic map doesn't actually export properly or import properly. I don't know why, but it always imports with sRGB, right? Now what you want to do is you want to uncheck this, and the reason why is that sRGB, as it describes excuse me, as it describes, it says this should be unchecked if using alpha channels as individually as masks. Now that's what we want to do, because each of them, so the RGBs are acting as separate masks. It's not a combined map in one to go in one particular node. The RGB is using different, going in different nodes, so it has to be unchecked. So once we then save that, so then if we then import this back into here and then go red, green, and then blue in like that, then click save, it should show up a bit more as we had it in the original, in the inside of Substance Painter. So I think that looks pretty good. Now that's basically how you do it. It looks a lot less shiny and a lot more like how we actually had it in our engine in Substance Painter before we exported it. So that's basically how you do it. And like I said, it's not the most complicated thing in the entire world to do. It's just a bit of a nuisance, especially when it comes to that particular sRGB thing, because it's something that not a lot of people think of, and it's something I didn't even think of when I was learning, when I was putting my Substance Painter textures into Unreal Engine for rendering. It's not something I thought of when I was doing it. So and again, it's just one, and in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but I think especially when the sRGB is active, it makes things a lot shinier. In very well lit areas, I can see it looking a little bit strange. So again, it's up to your choice. If you like it a bit more shiny than what it was inside of Substance Painter, then by all means keep it on. But I make it, I'm very to the point where what I make in Substance Painter is exactly what I want to make in Unreal Engine. Now you can toy about with it a little bit, like if you turned your roughness right down to the bottom and then kept sRGB on, you also get a little bit of glossiness. So there is a bit of like a play about with it. You can try and make it like adjust it a bit, but if you wanted just an easy life and just make it exactly, then just turn off sRGB and it'll show up it pretty much exactly the same way. So yeah, so that is about all I have time for in this video here. Again, it was a very long video, but the actual process of exporting isn't really that long. It's, again, it just, this sort of thing, this particular map here needs a bit of explaining because it is a bit complicated. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button for more awesome gaming or tutorial content. If you have any other ideas for things that I can do in Unreal Engine, do let me know, because I'll be absolutely, or even Substance Painter. We're very interested to hear your suggestions. So that's about all for me, and I shall see you all later. Bye!